Good morning and welcome back to the Liverpool Daily News. I'm James Martin, and today I'm joined by Dave Comerford and his very fetching Senna poster. Today we will be looking at the Ballon d'Or, talking about the results of that. That came in last night. The France Football Ballon d'Or Award, as it's known these days. There was a brief period where it went official, where it went mainstream, but I think it's back to just a newspaper award now. But still the most prestigious award in the sport. And a lot of Liverpool representation this year, wasn't there, Dave?
Yeah, even obviously Darwin Nunez sneaking in at 25th in kind of recognition of what he did with Benfica. And then obviously you've got, in addition to that, Trent in there, Diaz, Van Dijk, Fabinho, Salah. And obviously we can claim Mané too within that number, because it's weird how the award works. In a way, it's like, technically it's a calendar year award, but everyone kind of knows that realistically it's season to season kind of thing. So the buy-in stuff wouldn't really play a part in it. So yeah, we've become kind of used to it now, maybe with the exception of that 2021 season where we obviously struggled. We have had really for the past sort of 4 or 5 years a lot of our players up there, and I guess it shows how high flying we are in this era and how kind of historic a period it is for the club, really.
Yeah, I quite liked it being a calendar year award. I think they formally changed it either for this one or the last one to sort of recognise what everyone knew already, that it was kind of a season-to-season award. I quite like the fact, because everything in football is done season to season, so it was quite nice to have something at least technically different. But yeah, like you say, it's become season to season now, and it was a very good season for Liverpool. It was almost a historic season for Liverpool, of course, ran close to that quadruple. And I suppose the fact that we came close is probably haunting Mo Salah more than most, because, I mean, he ended up 5th, which was the highest ranked of current Liverpool players. Mané, of course, finished 2nd. So he did the best in terms of the players who played for us last season. But you can't help but sort of shake the feeling that Salah might have been 3 games away from winning the award. If you look at the African Cup of Nations final, you look at the World Cup qualifying match, and then, of course, the Champions League final against, Karim Benzema's Real Madrid, the eventual winner. So, yeah, how high do you think he could have got up those rankings if those 3 games had gone differently?
I think he could have won it, definitely. The reality with Salah last season was, you look at October, November time, he was probably the best player in the world on form at that stage. Certainly close with Benzema, but the things he was doing and the kind of numbers he was putting up in that part of the season were incredible, really. Obviously, pretty much after the turn of the year, when he came back from AFCON, the numbers tailed off for him. But the award, I think, is geared heavily around trophies, and people would have had arguments about that in terms of, is that the right way to judge an individual award based on collective accomplishments? But I think he ended up with just over 30 goals. If he does that and Liverpool win a quadruple, then, as well as obviously Salah winning AFCON, then it's hard to look past him. But I guess on the flip side, you could say, if Liverpool win the quadruple, then it would have been Sadio Mané's award, and that, I think, would have been seen as a Liverpool award too. In fairness, it was interesting with him because he was really struggling the first half of last season. And again, it kind of shows you the way perceptions are formed, because he obviously has this brilliant run in the second half of the season, qualifies for the World Cup with Senegal, wins 2 trophies with Liverpool, wins AFCON with Senegal. And that's really what's got him second, even though for the first half of the season, he wasn't really there. So, yeah, it's interesting how it all kind of fits together, but it does definitely hammer home, I feel, last night, the sense of how close we were to something completely historic, because it wouldn't have just been the team trophies we were cleaning up. It would have been the individual prizes too.
Yeah, I think if that had happened, Salah and Mané would have had a pretty convincing case to almost share the award, because they did have sort of mirror seasons, didn't they, with Salah, like you say, being on that sort of record pace run in the first half of the season, and then Mané sort of carrying us in the second half. But Kumar agrees with you. He says Mané would have won it and Salah would have been second if we'd have won the Champions League final. it's all if, buts and maybes, but it's interesting to think about. But either way, second and fifth is not bad going, and like you say, underlines just how up there Liverpool are at the minute. We've mentioned Nunez, who was sneaking in there for his Benfica antics. That's pretty good going for. It's a good sign for Liverpool, but also for just looking at the player himself to get that high up the standings while not playing in the traditional top 5 leagues. That sort of tells you the sort of level he was at and kind of why Liverpool were wanting to sign him in the first place, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think you make a good point about the league that he's playing in. I think Haller in there, he was playing for Ajax last season, I think I'm right in saying. So he finished up in 13th. Obviously, he would be the other one who's kind of cracked that top 25 without playing in one of the top 5 leagues. But it is an impressive achievement. Obviously, still very young as well, and hopefully a nice boost to the players' confidence. And I think I look at the whole list and I just feel there's some sort of reminders in there about the quality of certain players. Nunez obviously he's been mocked quite a lot online, but he is still one of the best young strikers in Europe. And also you've got Trent and Van Dijk. Had a look this morning, actually at the top 2 defenders on the list. And obviously the amount of stick they've had this season, Trent especially, might kind of obscure that, but the kind of fact still remains. It's the whole thing of class being permanent. Those 2 players are up there as the very best in their positions, and I don't think a bad run of sort of 10 games at the start of this season should change that really in terms of perceptions. But I guess it does, because just the nature of kind of football discourse on social media. But I did feel that there were some timely reminders in there.
Yeah, and you'd mentioned Fabinho in that list as well, I think, because again, in terms of the current Liverpool players, he finished second highest, which I think 14th. He came down there, which is for any player to be able to say, look, last season there were only 13 players in the world who were better than me, like it's a pretty amazing thing to be able to say. But he's one this season in particular who's come in for some pretty heavy criticism. You've seen people saying it looks like he's running through a treacle. You've seen him not play certain games which he would have been an absolute shoe-in to play in the past. It's again a reminder that it really is only sort of 9-10 games where these amazing players have struggled. Bruce asked the question, which I suppose we all want to know the answer to. I'll get your take on it. He says the number of Liverpool players on that list leaves one wondering what has really happened to our team this season. Like we said, it's only a small number of games, and of course, after that Man City game, there's a lot more positivity going around. So, can we just say it was an extended blip, or are there deeper worries?
It's a really difficult question, and not only looking at the amount of players that are on the list, you could also say that the likes of Alisson, Robertson, there's a few other players really in the squad who would probably have a shout to be on there, even beyond those that are already. And I think it does emphasize that the pieces are kind of there. And as we thought at the start of the season, maybe not to win the Premier League necessarily, but to be close, to be pushing Man City as we were last season, and also to be pushing in Europe. So it's strange because we've been used, that I feel, to Jurgen Klopp essentially overachieving every single season with the resources he's had at his disposal, whether that's kind of limitations in terms of squad depth or the quality of players at his disposal or injuries, anything like that. I always feel like he's kind of punched above his weight. This season, it's gone the opposite way for the first time. So it's kind of a new experience. Obviously, it is still early in the season. So you hope that kind of quality shines through. But you need the system for that to happen. And obviously Klopp has changed it. The early signs, I'd say, have broadly been encouraging, even though there have still been a couple of disappointing results in there and disappointing moments. So we'll see, I suppose, whether it's because it seems that what he tried to do early in the season wasn't working. Credit to him for changing that now and trying a new way to get the best out of these players. And I guess this sort of stretch of the World Cup is going to tell us a lot now, because I feel, and I've seen a couple of the players say this, that this Man City game was obviously a win that we all savoured hugely, but it's one of them where the amount that it means almost isn't defined by that one game. It's defined by what happens afterwards. And it does feel like it's easy to say this at any moment, but it does feel like a crucial period in the season now to harness that, take it through to the World Cup, because I think that if Liverpool struggle against West Ham tomorrow, if Liverpool don't get a result against West Ham, that it will feel like sort of 5 steps back, really, and the morale might actually be as low as it's been at any point during the season. So, yeah, it's in terms of answering that question, I feel it is a very kind of high stakes period.
Yeah, it's a good point. The players haven't got bad overnight. That should go without saying. But I suppose the Ballon d'Or is a helpful reminder. A lot of people have been, mentioning the ages of the players, saying it's a case of collective decline. But I mean, you look at Liverpool's entrants on the list, and half of them are 25 or younger. In Diaz, Trent, and Nunez, and the others aren't old really, even by footballing terms. That they're getting towards that age, but they're not at a point where they'd be dropping off a cliff. So, yeah, I think even the best players do need sort of a jolt sometimes, be that a change in the system or whatever it may be. I mean, Liverpool as a whole have maybe got a bit too predictable, which Klopp is now starting to change. And yeah, the players, their quality is still there. It just needs, like you mentioned, the system to sort of bring it out. And hopefully we can build on that Man City result and start to get some real momentum. Just before we leave, Kumar's had some comments for us. Morning again, Kumar. He's asking us about Konate. All we can say at this point is Klopp's press conference is 1:30 today. We'll have coverage of that over on Blood Red and on Liverpool.com as well, most likely. So keep an eye out on all our content today on .com and on Blood Red to stay up to date with all of that and with plenty more. That'll just about do us. We'll be back again soon with another morning stream. In the meantime, thanks to everyone who commented. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll see you very soon.